A Gobbet Opus 13, Caniculares dies, from September 19th, 2008. It's Roman for Dog Days. By the way, there is a Dr. Puss, and he does a zombie podcast. I'm called Dr. Puss at work on occasion, but I have nothing yet to do with zombies. Anyway, I finally saw an organism I have read about for 25 years. That's the problem with infectious diseases, and probably the only problem. There are so many germs out there, and many of them only rarely cause disease, often in patients with altered immune systems. As I have mentioned many times before, there are 10 to 100 times more bacteria in and on you than there are cells of you. We are awash in a sea of bacteria that make up our own bacterial microenvironment. And occasionally, these bacterial seas of other animals wash up upon us. Talk about a strained metaphor. I think I'm going to wrap that strained metaphor in an ice it, and hope it gets better. Our pets, however, are a source for bacteria. Pets can harbor bacteria that are commonly pathogenic as well as harbor their own bacteria that, under the right circumstances, can infect us. For example, Escherichia coli, known as E. coli as no one can spell Escherichia without a dictionary. E. coli is one of the primary bacteria, at least aerobic, in the human colon. It is a cause of urinary tract infections, and this organism can be passed back and forth from person to person, and from person to pet, and from pet to person. We all live in a thin haze of our own fecal flora, and we are always interacting with the fecal flora of the humans and animals around us. Think Pigpen from Charlie Brown, walking around in a little personal cloud of shedding skin, filth, and bacteria. That's actually all of us. One study assessed, quote, E. coli flora of 228 individuals from 63 households. We documented extensive within-household sharing of fecal E. coli, including within 3 of 5 urinary tract infection households. Our findings both confirm the results of previous small studies and extend them by demonstrating that within households, E. coli strain sharing is a widely prevalent, being essentially a normal condition, and commonly occurs among pets, humans, and non-sex partners, as well as between sex partners, end quote. 17% of humans and dogs share the same E. coli, and E. coli is not the only pathogen that dogs can carry. Dogs have been found to carry MRSA, Clostridium difficile, vancomycin-resistant enterococcus. Is why I'm not so sanguine about having dogs in my hospitals for, quote, pet therapy, unquote. I have observed that dogs have a habit of licking their ass. And so, how do you know they haven't transferred whatever is in their ass to their mouth? I never let a dog lick me if I can help it. It is the equivalent of shaking the hand of someone who's just scratched their butt. If a dog has a germ, it's going to pass it on to you. A bacteria, for example, the gift that keeps on giving. Dogs have organisms in their mouths that usually do not cause disease in humans, like Pasteurella species and Capnocytophaga canemorsis. And it is the last organism I saw for the first time this week. If you are unlucky enough to have your spleen out and are exposed to Capnocytophaga canemorsis, it can go berserk, causing sepsis with multi-organ system failure, and patients get a form of vascular thrombosis called DIC, or pulpura fulminans. It's a particularly nasty form of sepsis, as patients can lose fingers, toes, arms, legs, and their nose from the massive arterial clotting from this and other organisms can cause, which is what this poor person had. Years ago, he had lost a spleen to an accident and had frequent exposure to a slobbering dog. Capnocytophaga canemorsis, which lives in the mouth of dogs, managed, probably through small, unnoticed breaks in the skin, to gain access to his bloodstream, and it really tried to kill him. What was particularly impressive was the amount of thrombosis of toes and fingers, although, in the end, he survived thanks to all that modern medicine has to offer and did not lose a digit. I have read about Capnocytophaga, and it may be on your boards, by the way, for years, and have finally seen a case. I hope it is the last. If you have a dog and you do not have a spleen, be wary of dog bites. There is no animal that, under the right condition, can spread an odd disease or two to humans. Perhaps the best way to make sure your dog is sterile is to autoclave it, but for some reason people are hesitant to do that for their pets. Go figure. Do I have a pet? Nope. My kids want a dog, but I know I will be the one to end up taking care of it, i.e. picking up the poop. I'll pass. They did have a hamster, which promptly bit me. Hamsters, by the way, carry lymphocytic choriomeningitis virus. Then, about a month later, it escaped, fell down a heating duct, and died by electrocuting itself on a heating coil, filling the house with the smell of roasting, rotting hamster in January, and in the end costing me $500 to have it repaired. I cannot imagine the smell or cost if a dog or a cat fell down the heating duct and did the same thing. The relevant article from this podcast is Escherichia coli colonization patterns among human household members and pets with attention to acute urinary tract infection. Journal of Infectious Diseases, 2008. Don't forget my pathetic need for people to say good things about me on iTunes. If you're listening to this, please go to iTunes and tell the world how truly, stupendously wonderful this podcast is.